So, if you thought the fight between the Bulls and the Bears was getting interesting, it's about to get 20 times more interesting. Now, why is this so important for the markets? Why does it matter which side is winning? Well, guess what? That's how the market works. After spending an extreme amount of time in extreme fear this week, along with a very interesting thing happening with yields, bonds, Bitcoin prices, if you guys haven't seen what Bitcoin was doing recently, oh boy, it is getting crazy. 91,000, and we didn't even manage to open on the week. The crazy asset class is going crazy. So if we thought this week was crazy, this week's about to do 10x times the crazy. And simply put, we're setting up ourselves to be in a very interesting position this week. We got a jam-packed week going for this week, with Friday being the creme de la creme job numbers, where again, we're going to get some news through the week. We're going to get a lot of ISM data. We're going to get a lot of PMI data through the week. And that's going to be important because of the negative GDP print preliminary Q1 that came out of the Atlanta Fed GDP. That is the Fed's preferred area of looking for forward-looking GDP, which is very concerning. And immediately everyone was talking about 3 rate cuts going into December. The odds kind of stabilizing around 2 right now, but definitely the broader market, 50% of participants are expecting that we get at least 2 rate cuts and maybe even 3, right? About 28% believe 3, and some even in the camp of 4, 5, and even, do I dare say, 6 rate cuts going on in the markets after having one of the bloodiest weeks in living memory. Again, fear and greed. If you look at a timeline, how long have we stayed below extreme fear? For quite some time. We did close one day. This thing was sitting at 17. We threw it on Discord. I asked what this was going to be at. Someone said 15, giving me heart palpitations when I saw 17. And subsequently, what went on afterwards was just absolute craziness, right? So let's talk about what's going to happen this week in the markets, because it's a beautiful time to be in the markets with this number just going higher. I love this thing like no tomorrow. We also got China talking about a certain country and how that a certain company, TSMC, is basically giving souvenirs to the United States for its technology. It's kind of funny having the pot call the kettle black when China does the exact same thing to a lot of US technologies, but when the shoe's on the other foot, it's very, very interesting. Now, let's dive into the S&P, what happened this week, and what could be going. Well, if I didn't see the Bitcoin news, I would probably be telling you got a 50-50 chance to retrace. Probably keep calm, cool, collected about the markets. Wait till the 50-day moving average. Well, take that, throw it out with the baby with the bathwater, because Bitcoin doing this means if you're willing to buy the riskiest asset, there's only one team to be on this week to make a stupid amount of money, and that is the bull team. Again, the market 2/3 of the time is going to be bullish out of all of it, right? If we look at a 12-month pattern of the market, right, just to go into hindsight, it only goes one direction, really, guys, and that is straight dang up. So again, there has been bad years, there's been bad times, there's been dip buying opportunities, right? Like we talk about on this channel a lot about even NVIDIA, right? How this could be an excellent buying opportunity. Everyone that's been screaming bloody murder about NVIDIA at 155, 148, right? Everyone was saying, oh, it's so expensive. And now it's giving you essentially 20, 30% discount and you're not buying it. Same thing with Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin giving you the discount of a lifetime, 78,000 at the bottom. Let's say we're at 91,000 right now. Coincidentally, we're right back to where the secret line was at 91,720. Coincidental where we're going to go up from here. 150K, here we come next week, because honestly, I said the same thing when we were down here, right? We said that we covered Bitcoin for quite some time when we were down here, when we had the big fall, when we got down to 50K. And then retrace back, I said it's looking like it could come back down to basically the 35s area, because, again, it was looking pretty weak. Once it broke out, it didn't miss a dang beat. We basically, from the time we broke out, made 76%. So let's just assume we make 50% from the bottom move, right, where we break out. 50% be 125K, 75% would be about 140, 150. So these numbers aren't absolutely unrealistic. We could get there next month, though, or 2 months after that. The previous rally took us basically only from October all the way to December, 4 simple months. So May 150 question mark. And if you're willing to buy the riskiest asset, well, why aren't you willing to buy the other stable assets, right? Like the S&P. Again, we have to be cautious about the way we're going to play this. So let's talk about exactly what the game plan is going to be for this week to make the most amount of money. We're also going to give you guys the biggest winners and losers. If you want to join the Discord community where we'll be talking about the earnings plays this week, AVGO obviously on deck, what we're looking for, some of the plays. I'm not going to go into depth of the exact option plays that we're going to be doing this week. But if you guys want to join the Discord, hit me up on the Discord down in the link description to join. And thank you so much for that. Also, while you're down there, hit the like button. It helps the channel out tremendously. And consider subscribing for more videos like this. But you guys want to know how to make money on the stock market. Just look for the 50-day break at this point. There is a 75% chance, in my opinion, that we're going to get a 50-day moving average break or gap and go, especially with this news on crypto. Again, crypto drives a lot of the bull fervency in the market, so we're looking for that 50-day break on the S&P. We get that. We're looking for that 603 break and subsequently new all-time highs this week. Very, very possible. We do have Jerome Powell coming out on Friday with the job numbers, so that could be a very interesting move on Friday. It could catalyze us higher, or it could absolutely crush us. He could come out. We don't know which Jerome we're going to get, right? We always don't know which Jerome we're going to get. But I would not be looking based on the price action of Bitcoin that the markets send to a lower low. That would be very unlikely, even though tariffs on deck, right? Tariffs coming March 4th to a country near you. And that could kind of create some hesitation in the market, but I don't think that is, because we have priced these things in for quite some time, right? This was all the tariff scare back here. This is the inflationary tariff scares, even though PCE came in line, and also oil is going down. So I don't expect this rampant rise in inflation numbers. And last but not least, let's just point to the obvious thing. If there was an inflationary fear, why are the yields going down? Again, I'm not going to beat that dead horse to a brick, right? But the NASDAQ is probably going to be the buying opportunity of the century right now. The 50-day wouldn't be my line in the sand. It really be this area right here, 511.23. For above 511.23, I'm looking at the first point of resistance being the 50-day moving average, and subsequently 529.07 being the next point in the market. That is going to signal that further bullish continuation. NASDAQ has had crazy moves. Again, tech stocks were being down along with Bitcoin, and now they could be rising, especially those semiconductors that make the chips needed to mine Bitcoin. Just saying that it could be coincidental of where we're going from here. Could be new all-time highs this week. Make sure you guys throw in the comment section below of what you think is going to happen. But the NASDAQ, again, breaking above 511.23, buying opportunity, accumulation as we go higher, 50-day moving average. How are you going to behave around that? We're going to be looking at that specifically in the midweek update video. Make sure you guys are subscribed for that and have bell notifications on. That's going to be that 522 number. If we break above 522, 529 is pretty much a near-sighted hit. We break above that, that's a weekly higher high, continuation, buying initiation, and just buy, buy, buy. It's very one-sided this week, especially with this latest news that just came out. Also, with the IWM, similar story, but a little more risk. Considering that once the rate cut narrative comes back around, this is probably going to be the buying opportunity of the century. So with the Russell, I don't want to necessarily take a large position until we get back above the 200. Why? Well, you aren't bullish if you're below the 200, and right now the Russell has to make a considerable move. So maybe allocate the total position size of 25 on the open on Monday, and then look to add in once we break through that 218 number, and really want to get above that 220 number, which is the yearly previous close. That would also be around where the 50-day would probably move down closer to here as the 200 moves around here. And that would put a nice area of buying opportunity. Again, more certainty gives you a line in the sand to know when you're wrong, and you can keep the position size relatively small. And last but not least, I want to point out VIX. VIX having this red candle right here on the day, closing lower than we open, signifies like previously, if we look at some of these other times that we've been here, we essentially have the downswing. This is the bottoming pattern for the market. So this is evidence more that we're actually going to get a bullish run in the market versus the bearish thesis and continuation a lot of people are propagating now. Again, evidenced by the massive Bitcoin rally all the way to 91,000. Again, we can go over here, refresh the price for you guys just to see 91,665. It is basically, it went up exactly to that level, right? If we go here, 91,795, and we had 91,720. So it came up right to resistance, and we're going to see if it's going to break, or is it going to crap the whole way back down, leading to a further bearish continuation of the market. Yes, it's possible, but very, very unlikely. And you guys can see there's been blood in the streets, and Fatal's going to give you guys the biggest winners and losers, so you kind of know where the opportunities to make the most amount of money this week are. And we'll be back for the debate section of the video, but also throw in the comment section below if you guys want us to create the debate as a separate podcast and kind of have more of the technical side of this video come out on Sunday and a podcast on Saturday. Really want to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section, so make sure you guys check that out. And thank you all so much, and Fatal will give you the biggest winners and losers now.
So this week in the markets was just absolutely crazy. We had PCE as well as Nvidia earnings, and we guys could see that on the 5-day, the S&P 500 fell 1.17%. However, throughout the whole entire week, we were in that downward trajectory, all just to pretty much swing it entirely the last 30 minutes of Friday, going from a low of 5,849 to a high of 5,954, or about 1.58%. Moving now into the dividend hikes and cuts. Well, we actually did get a cut on the 23rd, and it was none other than Xerox did a 50% dividend cut last week. Then we got, starting on the 24th, we got Domino's Pizza hikes dividend by 15.2%. And I do believe that Warren Buffett did increase his stake on Domino's Pizza. Then we got Fresh Del Monte hikes dividend by 20%. Then Steel Dynamics hikes dividend by 8.7%. Willis Towers Watson hikes dividend by 5%. SBA Communication hikes dividend by 13%. Then we got Diamondback Energy hikes base cash dividend by 11.1%. Then on the 25th, we also got Home Depot, which hiked by a little bit. I like how he put that emoji right there. Hikes dividend by 2.2%. Coterra Energy hikes dividend by 4.8%. Linde PLC hikes dividend by 7.9%. Sempra hikes dividend by 4%. Xenia Hotels and Resorts hikes dividend by 16.7%. Main Street Capital will pay a 30-cent per share in special extra dividend. The regular monthly dividend is 25 cents per share with a 5% yield. So they're going to do a special dividend for 30 cents per share. Then we got Gap hikes dividend by 10%. Silgan Holdings hikes dividend by 5.3%. General Motors hikes dividend by 25%. A nice 15.4% hike by Versic Analytics. Amerisafe hikes dividend by 5.4%. Turning Point Brands hikes dividend by 7%. Xcel Energy hikes dividend by 4.1%. Allstate hikes dividend by 8.7%. Chubb hikes dividend by 6.6%. Dell Technology hikes dividend by 18%. And lastly, eBay hikes dividend by 7.4%. Now, if we take a look at the heat map, we could see that, wait a minute, how does that make any sense? It's actually just looking on the 1 day. So you guys can see Friday, this was a massive reversal because while you see everything as an emerald, pretty much everything as an emerald, prior to this, everything was crashing and burning. But if we take a look at this on the 1 week, we can see that the majority of this loss was concentrated in the technology sector, or anything that had to do mainly with technologies. Everything else did fairly good. As you guys can see, the consumer defensives did very, very well. The consumer cyclicals did very well as well, except for the two tech related companies, right? And banks did very well as well. Nonetheless, though, taking a look at the technology sector, worst performer here was none other than the company SMCI, losing 26.06%, and the best performer would be none other than the company Fair Isaac Corp, gaining 11.09%. Into now the consumer cyclicals. We can see here that the worst performer, of course, was Tesla, losing 13.27%, and the best performer would be none other than the company, it seems to be, guys, the company General Motors, gaining 6.13% on the week. Then we got the consumer defensives. A lot of green here, actually. Nonetheless, though, the worst performer was Lamb Weston Holdings, losing 7.04%. And the best performer would be Church & Dwight, gaining 5.57%. In the financial sector, honestly, they did very, very well. There was only one big, deep red one. That was PayPal, losing 5.2%. And the best performer, it is none other than the company Erie Indemnity. Wow, that's a name, gaining 11.63%. Looking into the communications, well, I mean, the biggest one here was Google. And by the way, guys, Google, it is now sub 200 at $172. This is down 5.16% on the week. I will probably be doing a discounted free cash flow with the new calculator on Google because this is looking very, very good. Nonetheless, though, the best performer was Warner Bros. Discovery, gaining 6.31%. Into now the healthcare, a lot of green here. I love to see it. And we can see that the worst performer was none other. Wow, these ones are just wow. Okay, so first of all, you got Viatris losing 17.96, but on top of that, you also have Moderna also losing around 12.86, as you guys can see right there. However, the worst performer was none other than the company Teleflex, losing 24.42%. And the best performer in the whole entire sector seems to be none other than West Pharmaceutical Services, gaining 10.16%. Looking now into the next one, which would be the industrials, we can see that there was a lot of green here. And yes, there was red, but honestly, nothing too deep in the red. Worst performer seems to be the company JB Hunt Transport Services, losing 3.89%. And the best performer, it is the company RTX, gaining 7.87%. The real estate sector is looking very, very nice. Now, the worst performer was DLR, losing 5.5%. And the reason for this is because they are tied to a lot of AI related things, seeing that they are basically a digital REIT kind of company. Nonetheless, though, they were the worst performer, and the best performer was the company American Tower, gaining 7.34%. Into now the energy sector. This is actually a very weird looking sector where the best performer and the worst performer on the exact same industry. Worst performer was APA, losing 9.10%, and the best performer was Texas Pacific Land Corporation, gaining 6.12%. Into now the utilities. We can see here that the worst performer, wow, okay. We can see here that the worst performer was Sempra, losing 17.83%, and the best performer was the company EIX, gaining 4.35%. And we can also see here that the best performer is in the exact same industry as the worst performer, actually side by side, and that would be AES, gaining 9.44% on the week. And lastly, in the basic materials, we can see that the worst performer was Mosaic Company, losing 7.14%, and the best performer, Sherwin-Williams, gaining 5.14%. And now taking a look at this upcoming week's earnings, we can see that we're kind of starting to die down here. There's a lot of companies that are just not that interesting. But on Monday, we got things like TG Therapeutics, Hut8, Sonova, GitLab. Then on Tuesday, a big one would definitely be Target, Best Buy, CrowdStrike, AutoZone, right? On Wednesday, we got Foot Locker, we got Abercrombie and Fitch, and a lot more, Victoria's Secret for starters. And on Thursday, this is the big one right here. We got JD, Broadcom, which you guys know I do have a thing with Broadcom. And, seeing the fact that NVIDIA did that, it was, we'll see how this turns out. Then we got Cracker Barrel, we got Kroger, BJ's, Costco. That one's a really big one as well. And lastly, on Friday, we got Algonquin, we got Whitehorse, and a lot more. Nonetheless, though, guys, it's going to be an interesting week. On Friday, we also have job numbers. So it's not as jam-packed, but it is still, we're not in the lull period yet of transitioning from one quarter to the next. But that pretty much does it for this segment. Take it away, Mike.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the good old Bitcoin. With Trump's latest tweet or post on Truth Social, this was absolutely insane. Let me zoom in for everyone here. As U.S. crypto reserves will elevate this critical industry after a year of corrupt attacks by the Biden administration, which is why my executive order on digital assets directing the presidential working group to move forward a crypto strategic reserve that includes XRP, SOL,
Wow.
ADM. I'll make sure that the U.S. is the crypto capital of the world. We are making America great again.
ADA? ADA.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So I think ADA's Chainlink, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what that one is.
Yeah, this thing went from...
Oh, no, it's Cardano. It's Cardano. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so
it's Cardano. Wow.
Here's...
This is huge. Huge news.
Yeah.
Absolutely
so
huge news.
We actually had one of the guys in the Discord chat throw this question out. Why the U.S. government is wasting money basically buying crypto, or like why taxpayer dollars, like spending $2 trillion in order to do this. I kind of see where people will say this is a waste of money, but I also see the flip side, and I kind of want to get your warm and fuzzy on it. Out of all the things the U.S. government does, you know, the 36 trillion smackaroos of wasted money,
Right.
at least this would be the first thing that actually has a positive payback.
Well, it's okay. So the way that I see it
through the
is
nature
that
of crypto, right? Naturally, these things, when they go through happenings, like primarily Bitcoin, Ethereum, right? Like the ones that we're talking about.
so I see. I don't know who it was, but I do see where this commenter's coming from, because I'm of the opinion that crypto's not an investment. It's not, right? But for the same reason, right? For the same reason why I don't consider gold as an investment, because it's not. Gold is mainly a reserve of value, right?
Yeah,
Always has been.
A store of wealth.
Right, it always has been. Now, you could make the correlation that like, oh, Bitcoin is basically digital gold. Yeah, but gold is physical, and there's more applications to gold than not just, having the metal. But I do see it in the sense that's like, why is the United States government doing this when they could have just, instead of with Bitcoin, why not just go back to gold, right? To do like an unofficial going back to the gold standard. You get me? Like,
Yeah,
just
but is
buy
this
a ton
kind
of gold. Why Bitcoin? So I do understand that part, but at the same time, it's more of like, if the United States basically puts Bitcoin as a reserve, then the price of Bitcoin is because when you think about it, even gold has no intrinsic value, right? Gold has no more intrinsic value than like aluminum, right? Value is only assigned based off of what humanity basically gives it value, right? So in one sense, it's like, well, why couldn't they just done that to gold? And then the other sense, just like, well, people see it as like a waste, because some people may see it as like, well, Bitcoin has no value. But if people give it value, then it has value. You get me? Value is just, it's subjective.
Yeah.
So that's just my 2 cents on it. I would prefer gold, but
Yeah, the thing is, I look at like what Bitcoin. The nice thing about Bitcoin is, especially like traveling with Bitcoin, if you try to like transfer wealth from one country to another, right? Like, so like, let's say you try going anywhere in the world and you have like 100,000 in gold, right? The country is going to stop you and take all your money and accuse you of trafficking. Versus if you have a flash drive with Bitcoin on it, no one's going to know, but you could have $2 million of Bitcoin just flying around the world, right? It's an amazing tool for like, it's a reserve of wealth. It's not a...
Well, I don't want to say it's a reserve of wealth, because we haven't gotten there just yet, right? It doesn't have the same, history, right, as the normal storage of wealth.
Yeah,
but it's getting there. That's what I'm trying to get at.
They all started somewhere. Everything started.
Right.
Silver started somewhere. Like, just because it's the same way like people with .com, right? Like, you didn't have like this big centralization of the .coms till you did, and then subsequently built the indices and market as it is today. It's kind of like the kickstarting of like this wealth, right? Where people made a crap ton of money on Bitcoin. They're probably going to make a literal shat ton of money right now, especially on this latest run. So the question is, how high do you think this thing's going to go? I'm saying 125 by like next quarter.
Oh, next quarter?
I'm trying to be conservative.
By June?
The last time I was...
By June?
Yeah, by June.
I don't want to say anything particular when it comes to that because I just do not know, right? But again, we even said this on the live stream. People were complaining that, oh, it did 107, it did like 110 peak, and that it fell down to like sub 80. I'm just like, only $30,000 loss? Guys, when it hit 70,000, it dropped all the way down to 20. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? Like, is it only a 30,000? Right. And then and it's just like this is nothing. Yeah. If you held from 70 down to 20, you're fine. Like you're okay with this. This is not a big deal.
It's the same way with the market, right? Like when we're in extreme fear, we're basically just like the world's ending, and then Friday rolls around, and it's like, oh, the world's not ending anymore. Even though tariffs are coming around and all this stuff, like everyone was saying the world's gonna fall off a cliff today.
Right. And well, I mean, in some people's minds, it is, especially with the whole politics thing that happened last week.
Well, the thing is, like, it's funny with that, right? It's like, well, like, watch Monday, Tuesday, right? Everyone's going to forget about that. It's just going to be like, what's the next new thing? And I guarantee you the next new thing is going to be rate cuts.
Job numbers. Or okay, fine. Rate cuts, but also job numbers, too.
The rate cut, Powell job thing, right? Like, the only thing the market only stays in these, like, little, like, fear mentality for like a brief moment, then goes sniffs the hopium, and it's like, okay, when rate cuts coming, right? When are our beautiful, magnificent rate cuts coming? And the funny thing is, like, from yesterday's stream from Friday's stream to today, we're back to 2 rate cuts being the majority, but still having 3 rate cuts as like a higher probability target. So like 50%. Just think 2 or 3, but really the consensus is like 75% think at minimum 2, and then it trickles down into the 6 rate cuts la land at
by when? By
December.
When is this?
By December.
By December, by the end of the year. Okay.
So
I personally don't think it's going to happen, but I personally don't think maybe we'll get 1 rate cut.
I think
maybe
we get 4.
Puff.
I'm going to take the other side of the bet because like
4.
Okay.
That's what.
Okay.
How many times? 4 at a quarter. 4 at a quarter. That would mean 1% by the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in the 11.6% camp. The sole reason we have seen how the markets can twist themselves into a knot about rate cuts. They have done crazier things. And speaking of crazy,
we'll see.
With Bitcoin and all this, it's kind of funny when the shoe's on the other foot, right? Everyone's saying like the market's going to fall, but when it's running, everyone's like not saying anything. A certain country is talking about...
I heard this. I heard about this.
A certain country is complaining, you're exporting our technology to the United States. But we spent the last decade doing it to the United States. So it's like calling the kettle black.
So let's see. China claims Taiwan is giving away its semiconductor technology as souvenirs.
I know.
Actually, what I heard, and this is in regards to this article right here. What I heard was that TSM may actually leave Taiwan and come and be like a U.S. company.
Yeah, it was mentioned on the stream that they're building a plant in the United States. So it's like that's the last foothold of control for like the Asian markets of like semiconductors. But if you build like Trump's wanting to do a semiconductor empire and a Bitcoin empire in the United States, you're basically going to find you're playing financial war with the other countries. Basically, they're playing checkers and you're playing chess, and it's just absolutely insane.
Right. So I'm actually really excited for this because I was hoping that Intel would have been the one, but Intel apparently can't find their way out of the...
Yeah, rumor about Intel is they may get bought out by AVGO. It's like you wanted to own Intel, but then you're gonna own Intel through the AVGO. That's the rumor on the street right now.
Well, if they do, I would just like it because AVGO does acquisitions. Like the way that they grow is through acquisitions only, which is don't know how I feel about that. But I mean, you know how Broadcom became Broadcom?
No.
So Broadcom, the company Broadcom, or Avago, it wasn't Broadcom, but it was Avago, was bought 9 years ago, and then it became Broadcom.
Oh, okay. So they just kept the name, but then it became okay.
Right. So they just basically do all acquisitions. Yeah. Not surprising that they may actually. And here's the thing too: if they're thinking about buying Intel, I highly doubt that they'll keep Intel the way that it is. They'll
No,
probably
it'd
just
be
be
a
like,
foundry.
you guys have a foundry?
Yeah.
We're going to make that our foundry.
Yeah.
We're gonna take your IP, right? We're gonna take your IP. We're gonna make that our IP, but you guys are solely going to be strictly foundry only.
Yeah,
That's
you're
it.
going to be our foundry stream, right? Like, you're going to be the boat anchor for us.
Yeah. So that's basic, and I'm perfectly fine with that because that's what I've been saying for I wouldn't say years, but for about like
2
actually
years.
years,
2 years.
about 2 years, yeah. Intel should be the foundry. That's it. Intel should just yeah, sure, have your little, have your
Side
little
projects, side quests, all that
projects.
stuff.
Yeah, like have your chips and all that stuff, fine. But the main business should be the foundry.
Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents on it.
But with AVG, we're gonna have to see, right? The rumor's been out there with Intel, right? How Intel was gonna restructure, new CEO and stuff like that, and it's been doing like this choppy phase throughout the whole time frame. And why I don't necessarily trade Intel, because it's just volatile like no tomorrow.
It is. It's very volatile. It's actually been going up. It's all this time with Nvidia and AVGO going down. Intel's actually going up.
Yeah, Intel, like this was on the like the new CEO stuff. You get the pop and then you come back down.
Yeah.
I still say I don't like Intel for one reason. The same way I don't like AMD is
Go on.
because the straight line down. The same way like with AMD, right? So like if we look at AMD on the same time scale, like that lovely 200 lasted for about like 5 seconds.
Hey, it did hit it though. It did hit it.
Yeah, it did hit it.
I'll
And
give
then
the guy credit.
subsequently-
I'll give the guy credit. He was premature on it. It didn't happen when he said it was going to happen. It did happen eventually, like a year later, but it did not hold. So
Yeah, it held for how many days, right? Like let's just for the shits and
it
giggles.
held for like I think it held for like
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days.
A week.
Six
A week.
A
Yeah,
week.
a week.
Held for a week, and now it's sub 100. Like
sub
AMD
100.
is just
Is it really sub 100?
yeah.
What? I thought it. What?
I'll buy AMD at $50.
Okay.
I don't want to even touch AMD with like a 200-foot pole, right? This thing just
Discounted free cash flow time on that one.
Yeah, this thing
Because
just
remember
literally
we
keeps-
kept saying it was worth like $20.
yeah.
So
It probably, like, if I just look at it from like a volume perspective, in this region right here, like 90 to about 55 is where I'll be looking at. But like
yeah.
And
Yep,
again, we
I
did
agree with
this
that.
like discounted free cash flow $20 when it was like that was like 2023, 2024. Geez, that was a long time ago. But anyway, let's just wrap up with the good old Powell and Jobs on deck this week, which is definitely going to be the fun part of the week. We're going to get a crap ton of ISM, but on Thursday we get Atlanta Fed GDP now. This is Q1 preliminary again. So they're the front runner for like the GDP numbers. Is it still going to be negative?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that. I'm like, is it still going to show negative 1.5? Because this is going to be nuts if they show again negative 1.5.
Or does it get
in the
worse,
Atlanta
right?
one.
So if it gets worse, I think
worse.
you literally 180 whatever you're doing during the week, like you just straight line down, because then it's the recessionary fear thing is going to start kicking off again, especially if you get out of fear and greed into, let's say, fear and neutral, and then you get like a worse negative print, it could really kick right back. But I think that negative, because it went from 2.3 to negative 1.3, right? That's a huge 3% move. And we've seen with these large movements, it's like the original number and then it just gets revised afterwards, right? This is not necessarily like, I don't know how much I trust the number. I think you'll have a lower than 2.3 number in Q1 of this coming year, because that was the original 2.3 print was Q4. So like preceding the growth into the next quarter, but not negative.
Also, even if it is negative, let's just keep it 1,000 here. The market may be like, oh, economy's bad. That means that rate cuts are probably going to happen.
7 rate cuts, here we come.
Right?
It's again.
So
I was about to say that. I'm like, the market will twist itself into a pretzel, trying to come up with a scenario for rate cuts. We've seen this over and over again. Everyone keeps downing it, and it's like, nope, time and time again.
We have no idea how they're going to take it. Like how they wake up that morning.
Yeah.
Is good news bad news, or is good news or is bad news good news? Like it's just like
all
we
good
just
news,
don't know.
or is it all good news? Therefore, market rally. But again,
there's something also happening on Thursday, and that is AVGO earnings.
Yeah, and after hours. So it'll kind of lead into, like, you'll kind of have that sentiment leading into jobs, which then leads into Powell after having a slew of Fed speakers, right? So it's just like Russian roulette the whole last half of the week. But I did mention that a lot of people think like, oh, the job numbers are going to come out crappy because of all the layoffs in the government. The thing is, most of these layoffs are occurring with severance. So what happens is that those people are getting their severance. They're most likely not going to go on unemployment that month because, number one, that's income that they have to then deduct in tax purposes. But remember, unemployment only lasts 6 months. These aren't the brightest people in the world from like the tool shed part. But what would be smart on their part is, okay, I get a severance for 6 months. I take unemployment after the 6-month period. So I get a whole year's of pay for doing nothing.
Right.
So I don't think this number is going to move for several months. You will see, I think, the payroll number
wait. Hang on a minute. Didn't even Trump say that they'll get until the end of September fully paid?
Yeah, like their severance is literally like I'm getting paid for 6 months, right? So if you lay me off in March, I get paid all the way to September. And then basically I can take unemployment from, let's say, August, September timeframe all the way through the end of the year and make the same amount of money that I was going to make this whole entire year for doing nothing.
I wouldn't, yeah. So that unemployment thing could go up, maybe.
It could go down even, right?
August,
because
September.
During that severance period, let's say they go find a job. So then the payroll number will go up because it instantly counts it into the payroll number, but it's not going to count in the rest of the market, right? The unemployment number. You're only going to see like further creation of jobs. So again, you're not going to see this degradation of the labor market. Like everyone's like saying, oh, the government workers and this, and I'm like, yeah, government payrolls may go down, right? But offsetting of the unemployment average, like all this, right? The government is not big enough to offset the entire gains or losses of the entire market, right?
Well, not in one fell swoop, especially if they wean it off like that.
Yeah, even if your payrolls was sub 30, right? Let's say it went from 30 to 0, okay. So you go from like a 156 number to 120. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, we've had worse. Yeah.
Well, we've gone 150 in one direction. We've beaten this thing by a crazy number. We've revised by 1 million. So
true.
What the revisions are going to be? That's the more fun question.
That's true. So, all right, and I think that's basically it.
Yep, and Powell obviously talking about monetary policy right at noon, right at high noon on Friday. So that what could possibly go wrong, right? Famous last words.
What could possibly go wrong?
All right, last but not least, where do you think this is going to end for the week?
I think we're going to stay in, if not extreme fear, I think we're going to hit fear. But
I think we're going to smack deb at 50.
I think we're going to stay in fear.
All right. We'll see what happens with that, guys. Live stream linked over here if you guys want to check out the latest live stream on PCE where we talk about that. Zelensky as well. So all the commentary there and more. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.